Hello friends! Today I'm going to do the author A to Z tag video. One of my favorite YouTubers, Jean, aka Bookish Thoughts, I will link her video down below, just did this tag recently. It's basically where you go through your book collection and pick out authors who have surnames going from A to Z. First up is the Penelopiad by Margaret Atwood. This is a really great feminist retelling of the Odyssey from the perspective of Penelope and the maidens who Odysseus kills when he gets back to Ithaca. The Odyssey is one of my favorite stories from antiquity because there's so much discussion to be had about Odysseus as a Greek hero. For B, I picked World War Z, An Oral History of the Zombie War by Max Brooks. This is probably the most definitive piece of zombie media you will ever consume in your entire life. It's set 10 years after the zombie outbreak happens, when humanity is kind of rebuilding itself, and it's about an unnamed narrator of sorts going around the world trying to figure out exactly what happened leading up to the outbreak and what happened military and media-wise, as well as locally, to people during all of the apocalypse. For C, I picked The Script for Juno by Diablo Cody, which was one of my favorite sort of indie films when I was in high school. It's a more mainstream indie film. For D, I picked Terrance Dick's adaptation of the Doctor Who serial Doctor Who and the Deadly Assassin. It's from the Tom Baker era, and it's one with the Master, and it's such a great serialized episode, and it's also a really great adaptation novel. For E, I picked Bret Easton Ellis's The Rules of Attraction, which is my favorite Bret Easton Ellis book, and it's also my favorite film adaptation of any of his books. It's about 3 college students in the late 80s, early 90s-ish, who all go to a school in New England, and they're in this sort of menage-a-trois kind of relationship. There's a bisexual male and some heterosexuals as well, if you're into that. But it's a really great character piece about 20-somethings and like dealing with life, which is something that I think Bret Easton Ellis was really, really good at. For F, I picked My Life as a Weapon, which is the first collection of Hawkeye by Matt Fraction and David Aja. This run is coming to a close, which is really sad, but I also think that it is a really great way to get into superhero comics. For G, I picked Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett's Good Omens, which is about the apocalypse. It's hysterical. It's about an angel and a demon who have to team back up together to stop the apocalypse, because even though both sides kind of want the apocalypse to happen, they would like to keep living on Earth just as it is. For H, I picked Homer's Odyssey, and it is the story of Odysseus and his men who are going home after the Trojan War back to Ithaca. I don't have a book for I, so I'm gonna move straight to J, which is William Joyce's Nicholas St. North and the Battle of the Nightmare King, which is the first book in the Guardians of Childhood series, which is actually a really well-written series of books for children that I think adults would really like. For K, I picked Mindy Kaling's memoir, Is Everyone Hanging Out Without Me? And Other Concerns, which is probably the funniest memoir I've ever read in my entire life. For L, I picked my favorite David Levithan book, The Realm of Possibility, which is about a group of high school students told in the form of poetry, and it's absolutely beautiful. For M, I picked, to the surprise of no one, The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, which is the story of Achilles and Patroclus, who are rumored to have been lovers and most definitely are in this book. It was really cool because I think I read this book immediately after reading the Penelopiad, so it was really interesting to get her perspective on Odysseus versus Margaret Atwood's perspective on Odysseus, and it just added to this beautiful conversation that is both in the world and also in my head about the Odyssey and what it means to be a Greek hero from both the perspective of Odysseus and also from the perspective of Achilles and Patroclus. For N, I picked Leonard Nimoy's first memoir, I Am Not Spock. For O, I picked Angus Oblong's Creepy Susie and 13 Other Tragic Tales for Troubled Children. And if you've ever seen The Oblongs, which was on, I believe, Cartoon Network, which is one of my favorite animated shows ever, it's based on this book, but that obviously has a more central plot line than this does, and I recommend that you read it and watch the TV show, because the TV show is strange and beautiful and indescribable, really. For P, I picked Chuck Palahniuk's Invisible Monsters. I don't have a book for Q, but I do have one for R, which is J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. I'm specifically holding up Deathly Hallows because I recently found a British edition here in America at a library sale, and I got really excited about it. For S, I picked Kevin Smith's Dogma, which took a really long time to find as a script, but it's my second favorite Kevin Smith film, and I love it. I love it so much. Retellings and reinterpretations of Christian mythology are my jam. I do not have a book for you. For V, I picked Kurt Vonnegut Jr.'s Breakfast of Champions instead of picking my favorite Kurt Vonnegut book, which is Slaughterhouse-Five. Breakfast of Champions is about a man who is an eccentric who works as a used car salesman in this tiny town, and some crazy things ensue. And Vonnegut kind of narrates it himself, and Kilgore Trout is there, which means that it's a party. But it's also a book which has a lot of Vonnegut's illustrations in it, which is really nice. For W, I picked Gerard Way and Gabriel Ba's The Umbrella Academy Apocalypse Suite, which is the first volume of the Umbrella Academy series. It's about a group of orphans who are getting back together. They were kind of superheroes when they were kids, and then they were like, well, we don't want to do this anymore, so then they kind of grew up and moved away, and they're coming back together for a thing, and crazy things ensue because of their superpowers and because they are finally back together. I don't have anything for X, but I do have Kaori Yuki's Godchild for Y. This is a series which is technically the second part of a series. The Kane Saga was the first part, but it was the first part of that story to be published in English, therefore it came into my brain first, and therefore it's first in my heart. But Godchild and the Kane Saga is about this kid named Kane who is an earl in Victorian London, and crazy, weird, occult serial killer stuff is happening, and he fancies himself kind of like Sherlock Holmes, so he wants to know what's going on. It's great if you like stuff like that, which I do. And finally for Z, I have Markus Zusak's The Book Thief, which I cannot wait to read. I know it's going to be an emotional ride, and everybody loves this book, and I feel like I'm going to absolutely adore it. It will probably become one of my favorite books. I just gotta get to it. Like I said, I will link Jean's video down below. You should definitely go watch it. I love her. She's fantastic. And I will talk to you guys later. Peace out, Cub Scouts.